First question for you. Do you find, I mean, it seems like the cat area has really just exploded. And, we have our horse whisperers and and I hate this whisperer term. It's so overused.
Right.
And we've got dog whisperers and now the cat area is coming up. Are most of the issues that you see, have they been around a while, or are some of these new, maybe due to the way that we're living in our world today?
Well, I mean, the problem exists when you take an animal whose nature has not been really affected by humans in their history. They were around for the ride. We didn't really take them out of their natural surroundings and make them or ask them to do jobs for us.
That's true.
The job that they did was they caught and killed vermin, which protected our food source. So, amazingly enough, it wasn't until about the Victorian era, really, because Queen Victoria liked cats a lot, and she brought them into the home. And we then followed suit. It's about 120 years in that realm where we've said, you know what, you can share these four walls with us. And we're still not done with that yet, And then we ask them to poop in a box. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
For instance. And that's where the problems begin. The problems begin with the fact that even through this coevolution, to a certain degree, we're asking unreasonable things of our cats.
And
then we get mad.
Right. No, and I think the dog piece is a good one too. Dogs, we want them to protect us and be guard dogs, and yet we get upset when they bark.
Of course, right. It's got to be when it suits us. And I think the thing that we forgot, I mean, look, we do that with our kids too. It's like, okay, we know the kids need to get their energy out, they need to play and everything, but then I have a headache, But there's that. There's also the reasonable versus the unreasonable. And you're absolutely right. I mean, if you, from a young age, tell a dog, it's okay to do this, well, when is it not okay? And when you tell a cat, for instance, I just got off the phone with a consult. They said, how do I get my cat to stop? She's driving me crazy. Every time we eat dinner, she's up there, especially with chicken. Well, how many times have you fed your cat chicken sitting at that table? And now you've decided it's unreasonable.
Right.
So you have to, it's the majority of the problems I deal with, and you see this on My Cat from Hell, is reframing the problem so that the guardians can start owning part of that problem.
Absolutely. And so, Jackson, we were talking about just issues that you've seen with cats and how we haven't really done a whole lot to take them outside of what they're used to until recently. And the one thing that comes to mind is you'd mentioned about pooping in a box. So how are cats, I mean, I'm assuming they mark their territory like most other animals in the wild and things like that, but can you tell us the shift there? Why is pooping in a box a good or a bad thing?
Well, I mean, for us, it's a pretty darn good thing.
Right.
But when I say that it's an unnatural thing, it's not as much as it's unnatural. They're doing us a big favor. To poop in the same place every day is a big deal for cats because it's a very delicate dynamic because it is territorial, but it's not marking because they tend to bury their poop. It's one of those things where it's not saying I own this in a way to communicate that to other animals. But it is a way of boosting their self-esteem. That I own this, therefore I poop in it. And that's basically it. So by restricting to one litter box, even if you have one cat, I'd say 2 litter boxes at least. By restricting the location, I mean, I gotta say that 75% of my clients think of themselves way above their cats when it comes to the placement of a litter box. and it takes a lot of work to get them to undo that. The lack of cleanliness of the litter box, things like that. I mean, you got to remember they're doing you a favor, and this is, one of my big hammer home points. Whether I'm, lecturing or writing or in home, is you have to learn how to compromise. This is not a domination thing. This is more like a roommate who doesn't speak English.
I like that. It's I agree with you. It's not a domination thing. Compromise. It's a partnership. It's a relationship.
I mean, that, in your work with horses. I mean, you can't make a horse accept you as a rider, right? I would assume you can't force that. It's a relationship. It's trust. It's energy that goes back and forth between person and animal, and that is absolutely consistent and immutable, regardless of the species that we're talking about.
Yeah, I would agree. So what would you recommend? What would be ideal locations for the cat? What do you recommend to your clients for that, for the place of the litter box?
Well, this is the place they love. Let's just break it down. When people they'll tell me, I have 4 litter boxes. Oh, cool. Where are they? And they're 4 of them put together in the garage, or there's 2 of them in the mud room, 1 in the garage, and 1 next to the washer dryer. They're hidden. The thing is that a cat's scent is of the utmost social significance to them. Their food source and the sanctity of that food source is number 1, but also protecting that by walking around and saying, I own this, is number 2. This is the concept that I call cat mojo, right? That what propels cats forward. So it needs to be in a social place. It needs to be in a place that they can help mark. And here's the thing is, and I do have a video posted on my website about this, where you don't have to go nutso about cleaning your litter box and disinfecting and vinegar and all that junk. You scoop that litter box. If it's a litter that is a solid litter in terms of retaining scent, remember, they can smell it. You can't, but they can.
Right.
You just don't like looking at a litter box? Well, tough. I mean, that's the place where I start getting impatient. I don't care if you don't feel like looking at a litter box. You keep it clean, they go in it. That's an arrangement that you have living with cats, and that's not such a big deal.
Right.
I mean, I've had clients, believe it or not, who their entire like the shears on their drapes, they're yellow, is soaked from we're talking big picture windows, so wall to wall. And I look at it and I say, now your cat is projecting territorial insecurity. There's something going on outside that window. That I call it the Home Alone syndrome, right?
Uh-huh.
Where it's like Joe Pesci is outside wanting to break into your house, and so you arm the place with razor blades and ice and marble. That's exactly what's going on with your cat. They're keying on that window to say to Joe Pesci cat out there, you come no further,
Right.
And I say, let's put a litter box right at that window. And they look at me as if, first of all, I just shot them. And secondly, they are actually debating it. Do I want a litter box right here in the living room, or do I want my cat to continue peeing on the drip? They're weighing that. So
wow.
That's how allergic people are to advertising to the world that they live with cats.
Yeah, I find that interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it seems if you love cats, what's the big deal? I mean, do you want to hide your cat when company comes over? You put him in the back room or something?
Well, guess what, folks? Your house is going to smell like pee. So everyone knows you live with a cat.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you pay me now or you pay me later. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to make it into like this big sacrifice living with cats. It's really not. The payback of living with animals is, as you know,
It far outweighs. Right. Yeah.
It's huge. So, I just, there's small concessions you have to make in order to have a peaceable kingdom.
I agree. And I think we have a caller that has a question.
Sure.
Okay, are you there?
Yes, I am there.
Oh.
Okay.
Hello there.
Hi, I just want to say my cats and I love your show. So
thank you so much.
We watch it all the time, every Saturday night.
Oh, good.
So here's the general question. Oh, yeah. And we use your essences at times.
Oh,
so here's the question.
So
what about travel with your cats? And I'm not talking airline travel where you can sedate your cats, but if you have to, car travel, what's the best way to, in general, do this to make your cats comfortable and feel well, and if you have to stay in hotels and this kind of thing with your cats?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a great question because it addresses the bigger question, which is the lack of preparation that a lot of us put into socializing our cats. And socializing extends beyond the four walls of our place. I come across a lot of people who have never taken their cat out of their home, and let alone try to put them in a carrier. And so let's talk about that first, because in order to get your cat to travel, they got to like being in a carrier. Not just tolerate it, but like it. It's home. And, by the time we shove them in there and we get them in the car, and let's say, let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, they're going to the vet every time they get in the car. Well, of course, it's a negative association. So it really is breaking it down to steps. For instance, you've seen probably on the show, and in my practice, I use a few different types of carriers, but one is called the Sleepy Pod. And the Sleepy Pod is a really beautiful circular carrier, but the top zips off it, and it's just this plush bed. And I get them used to the bed first. I give them treats in the bed. The only time they get those treats is in the bed. And then, wow, this is the end of the rainbow here. And then I'll add the top. And then treats, open the top. And then you add in the step of just walking them around the house. Put the carrier down, open it, give treats. It's a game. Then you get to the point where you're in the car. You drive around the block, come back. Do you know what I mean? And it's not. And 90% of the time,
I know
you don't go to
exactly
the
what
bed.
you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's a slow acclimation.
It makes a tremendous amount of sense.
Now, and you also know that on the show and in my writing and everything, I talk a lot about the challenge line. There is that place with every cat where you do want them to approach, that challenge line, that place where they say, yeah, past that line, I'm really uncomfortable. We need to know exactly where that is from cat to cat as an individual so that you can every day approach it and just gently, put one paw over and erase the line, because that then leads to things like being able to go to a hotel, for them to be able to adjust. And, an overall message, again, thanks for bringing this up, is that we need to get them at a young age to do this kind of thing, because there's an overarching thing that I'm always looking at is preparation for emergencies. I mean, you've got to make sure you can get your cats into a carrier. You've got to make sure you can get them when the time comes. Whether it's disaster, if, and this is something that's really important to me coming from a shelter background, that if your cat is not used to being anywhere but your four walls for 10 years of their lives, if God forbid something happens to you and they wind up in a shelter situation, they're not going anywhere. That's where all of that social training pays off in spades, is that they won't go on hunger strike, that they'll be able to accept new people and new situations. They can be adaptable at that point. But we have to make that bed for them.
Yeah, that's a very good point.